Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and yesterday I made a video about these little guys, these long reach needle nose pliers, and the premise was basically you don't need super high quality expensive snap-on ones for most things that people use these for. Now the comments section opened up a little bit. Most people agreed, didn't need real fancy ones, had cheap ones, and they've always worked great. You know, maybe they didn't even have a specified use. I thought it was kind of funny, the person that's always digging dryer lint out or something. Yeah, they're great for that. They're reaching in. It's like a long pair of tweezers. And in some cases, they kind of remind me of the, maybe early blacksmith tongs, which are basically some shaped iron rods that are riveted together, and they work great. I mean, basically you got handles and you got a little pincher point on this end. There's not a ton beyond that. However, some people did mention that they really needed some much better either cross-hatching or, a grippier jaw. Some people were in certain industries that used them all the time. There were some very specific jobs mentioned where, yeah, if you're doing that, get the good pair, because there is a difference. The question is whether or not the average user, which still might be way above a DIYer, ever reaches the limit of what an inexpensive pair can do. But let's take that a little bit further now with some longer ones here. Now this is actually a $96 snap-on tool. And for the length, that's probably one of the more affordable ones, if you had it priced by inch or something. But if we look at this thing, it's again pretty much the same. Shaped handles, it's just more. And this one really feels like a pair of blacksmith tongs. And it's got a dual handle essentially, so you can easily fit it in your palm, a little more dexterous stuff that's not terribly different, maybe than a standard long needle nose, or let's see if I place those there. Maybe they're close to that. Is that sort of what's going on? And then it's got this handle down here, which you have to have a fairly large hand to be able to manipulate that, at least to get any width at the end of the jaw. But in a lot of cases, that's more two-handed. And what I want to mention here is this plier, it does have a spring right here to try to push it open. I think that's an afterthought. I'm surprised it's even there. But this does have some stiffness. And this is actually one of those pliers where I don't mind the stiffness, because sometimes I'm using it two-handed, and when I'm doing that, I don't want it to flip around. I don't mind if it sticks in position, because I might be able to get it, working with whatever I'm on and then move up and grab it versus it just flopping open. So there's that. But at $96 for no specified use, there's nothing in specific I really need it for. It's just handy. Well, let's enter the Pittsburgh arena. Pittsburgh, for about, not on sale, $13 will sell you a pair of these. Okay, that's $6.50 a piece. Remember, I pointed out that Chinese one was $5. These really, for weight, make it seem like an even better deal. And Pittsburgh, and I believe Quinn, if you want to shop in the Harbor Freight market, also make variations of long needle nose pliers. But let's talk about this right-up comparison with the $6.50 one with a $96 snap-on. Now, right away, the snap-on feels vastly higher quality. You can tell in the feel, the stiffness, the handle, lots of different things, the finish work, but does any of that really matter in what it does? And I thought about the difference, in the two, once you can grab a hold of them, it's almost like the snap-on up to this point right here. This part is following sort of the standard Pittsburgh line, but then Pittsburgh just sort of does the barbecue tong sort of, bending of the handle. It actually does give you some flexibility there, but it is so small and springy. I can easily touch those together. Look at that with two fingers. I can squish those all the way down, so it's a pretty springy steel. But does that matter? Given the leverage, and I'll get to what I think using a scale in a sec. But anyway, what I feel is this is a great plier. This oozes quality. This one, not so much, but what really is the difference? And so what I decided is I'm going to set a limit of, 20 pounds, I think is plenty for trying to pull with a little pair of pliers like this. But 30, would that be okay? 30 pounds. In other words, you're picking up a 30-pound weight with maybe the 3/8 or 1/4 inch of the tip. Well, let's try it. So what I've got is a little washer on here, and I'm going to bite into that. I'll go about that far. Is that fair? And then what I'm going to do is hang on to this end, try not to get hurt here, and watch where this indicator goes. So I'm going to pull this, and as you can see, right there is going to be the 20, okay? So I'm pulling, you know, and I'm just squeezing this, nothing crazy. On the Pittsburgh, I'll probably have to bottom it out, but right there is the 20, and there is the 30. So I can hold on all the way out to 30. Let's see what happens here with the Pittsburghs. So I'm going to line that up. It's about the same amount, maybe. That lined up. I don't want to introduce any other vectors into this thing. So, and I'm going to squeeze these, you know, probably close to closed. I don't know if it matters once you kind of bottom them out. So here's again the spring tension, and you can see right down there is the 20. So let's go ahead and try it. So there's 20, no problem. There's 30. Look at that. 30 pounds is what I can pull easily, and that's because my scale bottomed out, and I think I could go much higher. That's reaching way out with these $6.50 pliers. So then what else is the difference? Well, this one's got some, you know, coarser edges here, or coarser jaws. This is the fine jaw parts, pretty similar. The operation, they're both kind of stiff. This one's a little stiffer, probably will loosen up. Comes with this guy. You know, I haven't even gone there. But anyway, so for $6.50 or $12.99 for the set, use a coupon. There was one going on when I got this, you know, offering a discount. But for about everything you're going to use, this to me is going to perform about the same as this snap-on. $96, $6.50. However, this does have a lifetime warranty that you can exchange in the store. This one, you'd have to find a truck, and this is often not on the truck because it's sort of a specialty tool. They don't sell a lot of them. People probably think that's really cool, but I have no idea what I'd do with it. Or if there's a specialty shop, specialty job, they probably already have it. Or they've got the Pittsburgh, or any of the variations. But anyway, this one here is about 16 inches long. It's a little longer than the snap-on. Line that up. A little over 16 right there. The snap-on comes in, even counting those extra deep drip loops at the bottom, at just under 15. And not that that matters a whole lot, but great tools. But unless you've got a very specific need, wow, this rocks. Now, other people mentioned the double jointed ones. I may do a video on those. That's, to me, a slightly different animal than this, especially if you actually need to feel what's going on at the far end. Because once you run it through a couple of joints, you lose a little bit of the finesse. So if you're using these on plastic or softer materials, there is the ability to feel, you know, like what I'm pinching my finger here, to feel what's going on this end a lot easier. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this side. And with that, Doc out.